Hi guys, what's up? My name is David and welcome back to my channel. By the time I will publish this video, I will be in Norway, in a forest on a camping with most likely no internet, or at least no Wi-Fi. And I'm not planning to use up all my data, so I have to pre-film some of these videos. Well, hello from Norway, I guess. And hi, welcome back to my channel. So I made a video recently where I talked about changing my name legally, and I realized I never really talked about how I even got to the name I'm using right now, where that came from. And, you know, not to be like, oh, I'm not like other girls, but I feel like how I chose my name is different to a lot of other trans people's experiences, so I want to talk about it and see if someone has had the same experience as me. So I actually knew I wanted to be called David before I knew I was trans. I know it sounds weird, but I was just like, damn, I wish I was a guy because then I could be named David. Well, too bad that's not possible. Well, little did I know it actually was possible. But where did I get this name from? Well, this book. It is the Bible in Polish, yes. I am not a Christian, but I am very interested in different mythologies around the world, and since the Bible is Christian mythology, I decided to read it one day, and I came across this story of David and Goliath. If you're not familiar with it, it's a guy, a shepherd, I believe he is, who battles a giant named Goliath, and he swings a stone to him and kills him, and then he later becomes the king of Israel and stuff like that. But the way that the name David is spelled in Polish is David with a W, and the original Hebrew pronunciation of it is David, so I guess my name is the correct one. Not saying that anyone named David is like invalid or something, it's just funny. So yeah, I just saw that name and I just wished I was able to be called that way. And then I think 2 or 3 years later I realized I was trans, and it just immediately came to me like, oh, of course this is how I want to be called. I know from other trans people that they had experienced with different names. If they, for example, realized they were trans and did not know what they would like to be called yet, they experiment with different names. And I just never really had that. I just always knew how I wanted to be called. And it just goes to show how there is no one way to be trans. There are so many different possibilities, so many different ways you can try things out and discover things about yourself. Like, some people, for example, don't really have a problem with their dead name being the name they were assigned at birth, and they just choose a masculine version of that, or they keep the name they had because it's not bothering them, or it's gender neutral, or stuff like that. My dead name was always bothering me. If I wasn't trans, I would probably have changed it too. I just hated it, and so my current name is not close to my dead name. I am not going to mention it, no one needs to know what it is, but let's just say my current name is not close to it. But yeah, not everyone feels that type of way, so sometimes people just decide to keep the name they already have, or they live in a country where it's practically impossible to legally change their name, and they just have to deal with being called their dead name forever unless they move, or I don't know, or do stuff that I did, like change their citizenship. But since my way of picking a name for myself is, I guess, not the way it's gonna go for everyone, I do want to share some tips on how you can pick the name that's right for you if you don't immediately know. So your best friend will be baby name sites. If you have truly no idea, just go to a site like that, click on masculine, feminine, neutral names, whatever you want, and just see what's available. See if you connect with the meaning of a name, with the sound of a name, if it fits with your last name. Because that was the thing for me. My last name is Walorski, it starts with the W, so it felt better for me to choose the Polish version of David than David with a V, because it just fit better with the rest of my name. But yeah, like I said, it's just my personal preference. Someone else might not care how their name sounds with their last name. Then a lot of people also choose names from fictional characters. I mean, I did too, since, the Bible is not real. Although some things in there have some form of historical accuracy and can be proved, although archaeologists that did research in the region of like Israel, Palestine, stuff like that, were very biased and were desperately looking for evidence to the views that they already had. So any evidence we have about things in the Bible might still be biased. But yeah, many people choose names from fictional characters or other mythologies like Greek mythology, Norse mythology, or like stuff like, I don't know, Harry Potter. Books in general are a fun way to discover names that are maybe not the average one. Some people might be fine with just having a very normal name. My name actually is very common in Poland, but in the Netherlands where I live, it's not common, so it still feels kind of like a quirky. But if you're able to choose your own name, oftentimes it becomes a name that's cool or creative, or it's spelled differently than the normal version of that name. You can actually choose how you want to be called, so you have so much freedom to choose from. But sometimes you just want to have a normal name. You just want to be called, I don't know, Peter or John, and that's fine as well. And another tip when it comes to choosing names is that it's okay to change your mind. Until you have legally changed your name on paper, no one is stopping you from using whatever name you want. I've known people that I had to like change their name in my phone contacts like 5 times because they decided to try out a different name. I'm like, okay, fine. Sometimes it takes a while to see what name fits you, and that's perfectly valid. Another thing when it comes to choosing names is look at your history. It's very common for parents to name their children after another relative, like a great grandpa or an aunt or something. Look into your family tree if you have it available. See if there's any fun names in your family that you can use. And another tip, or at least something that I not really struggled with, but a thing that was an issue for me is I would not want a name that someone in my like close circle had, because that would feel awkward for some reason. Like I would not choose a name for myself that is the name of my father or a teacher from at school or like a friend or something like that. So keep that in mind when choosing a name, not necessarily for yourself, but also for that other person. Like, for example, if you want to name yourself, let's say John, and your best friend is John, and that's the only John you know, then it might be weird for that person for you to call yourself John. I mean, no one is saying you should not do that. It's fine to have the same name as your best friend, but it's maybe just something to keep in mind, I guess. So, yeah, as you can see, the road to finding what name fits you when you're trans can be difficult, but it doesn't have to be. Sometimes people just have this moment of enlightenment and they know what name they want to use, and sometimes it takes years to decide on one, and sometimes it changes. Sometimes you're so sure you want to use one name, and then you decide, you know what, no, I just want to try something different. And I just had the privilege, I guess, of immediately knowing how I would like to be called, and I've been using this name for 5 years, and I'm still not tired of it. I'm not looking for another one. So I guess this was a good choice. And, it's okay to make bad choices, or at least not entirely optimal choices. But not only trans people are unhappy with the names they were given at birth, and it's okay to dislike your name. It's okay to want to change it, and it's in most countries it's possible to change it. So why not? Like in Europe before Napoleon, people could just change their names at will. There were no last names, so you were just called whatever people called you. It didn't have to be one thing. It could be like a nickname that became just the name you called yourself. It could be a different name in different social environments. And now we have this thing where everything has to be written down, everything has to be like in a catalog, everything has to be archived. So now changing your name is such a big thing because it's everywhere. Your name is everywhere, and especially your last name is everywhere. I wish we lived in times where you could just freely choose whatever the fuck you'd like to be called. But yeah, fortunately, the possibility of changing your name still exists. And if this is something you want to do, feel free to reach out to me about it if you want to know more. And yeah, that was everything I had to say for this week. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.